As most of you know, I've been writing a book over the last year or so, and we've gone through so many inclinations as to how we wanted to do it and keep people involved. And one of the things we came up with is that we would occasionally read excerpts, and as we get closer to the graphics, we would post different ones for people to vote on which one they like best, so on and so forth. I'm going to read you the introduction that is one of the few things that has not been revised, because it was one of the most raw things that I wrote, and it was just kind of off the cuff, and everybody in the meeting was just like, oh my goodness. So I think it will help you understand me better. And unlike all the sensational stuff that you hear and see about me in the press, and the things that these internet trolls, go on and on about without any facts of their own, I think this gives you a better understanding of who I am and where I came from. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoyed writing it, and I hope it will make you want to look forward to reading more about my life. Because I can assure you that the Michael Phelps part is such a little teeny tiny blip of my life, and he pales in comparison to the rest of it. So here we go. I think everyone in life at one time or another says, I'm going to write a book. I believe it is human nature to think that your life is astounding and worthy of a good read. Most people never put pen to paper or fingers to keys. Lucky for you, I am not one of those people, and through many childhood journals and near photographic memory, down to the most minute of details, I am about to take you on quite a journey, one that I wouldn't believe if I hadn't lived it myself. My journey is one of amazing confidence that is truly faked in most instances, courage that I have no clue the origin of, and a bird's eye view into life of borderline personality disorder over 4 decades. I will take you far beyond the sensational headlines to a life filled with risks, crazy, love, hate, loss, and rebirth. Roxanne Marie Quintel was born to humble beginnings to Fred and Rita Quintel. She was the firstborn of 3 girls. Suzanne Gale, the middle daughter, was her confidant. She never had the close relationship with Michelle Ann, who was nearly 11 years her junior. The Quintels were working-class people that worked in the subculture of the harness racing business. Fred jogged and trained horses, owning some of his own throughout the years, and Rita always by his side to lend a helping hand. In addition, she worked in several shoe factories throughout the years. She worked concessions and sold programs up in the grandstand to save up Christmas money to create something magical every holiday season for us kids. The Quintel girls may have been poor, but they certainly weren't fully aware of it. As they got older, each of them would follow in their parents' footsteps into the horse business as grooms, which are people that tend to the needs of horses and clean and maintain the barns. My mother, Roxy, as her friends called her, was very outgoing. At 5'7", with all the right curves in all the right places, boys took notice. She excelled at school and was smart outside of it as well. Her parents would come to challenge that concept in her teen years when she met my father and fell in love. My father, Lee W. Fitch, was a harness horseman, a jockey, from a prominent New England family. The Fitches were landowners, store owners, wealth builders. George Evans Fitch came from money and married a girl who had a secretarial school background from a poor Gorham, Maine family that was challenged by money problems and alcoholism. Make no mistake, though, Florence Whitney Hutt was a proper, conservative lady. They had 3 sons, and my father was the youngest, their baby. He was wild and trouble from the beginning. If he couldn't find trouble, he would make it. School wasn't his thing, and neither was the army, but my grandfather's pastime of horses became my father's lifeblood. By the time my mother came into the picture, my father was already married with a small child, my brother Corey. 10 years her senior, he was every girl's dream of the bad boy, in a world where harness horsemen become like gods. A small, close-knit world where women, drugs, and alcohol flow freely, often overlapping between users. My mother fell hard from my father, and the fact he was married didn't stop their love. She was a teenager, still a girl, with the body of a woman. Their love affair would destroy my father's first marriage to Linda and produce another child, me. The Quintels were Catholic, and there was no way their daughter was going to be pregnant and unwed. My grandfather, Fred, was very against this union and forbid my mother and father from being together. But my mother was in love, and her mother aided in helping them meet and see each other secretly. My mother's pregnancy kind of let the cat out of the bag. My father divorced and married my mother when she was 17 and pregnant with me. Thanksgiving in 1972 was an uncomfortable one for my mother. She labored through the night, and I was born in the wee hours of the morning the next day. I'm told from the outside they seemed happy, and she had everything she wanted, the love of her life and a family. That bliss was going to be short-lived. 18 days after her 18th birthday, she would die in a horrific car crash driving back from Rockingham Raceway in New Hampshire. I never got to know my mother. I still wonder to this day if I know my father. I was always told the reason my father didn't raise me is because of his career as a harness horseman. It wasn't copacetic to raising a child. He gave me to his parents, already in their golden years, to raise. I'm not sure at what age I became aware that my mother died and my father didn't want me, and that is truly how it always felt. For many years into adulthood, I could count on one hand the number of times my father told me he loved me. I felt abandoned by both parents, a heavy burden for a child to live with. My grandparents were loving enough, and I had everything money could buy, but my childhood was filled with despair at the hands of 3 men that were very close to me. The first was Christopher Mullins, who is the grandson of my grandmother's best friend, Betty Coleman. Betty's daughter, Patricia, took care of me a lot when my grandparents traveled or had business obligations. My earliest memory of Chris is him taking me out of my crib from a nap. I'm wearing a burgundy red corduroy set of overalls with metal clasps connecting at the shoulders. I have on a white turtleneck long-sleeve shirt with some repeating small image, I believe baseball bats, on it. I had on black and white saddle shoes. This was the first of numerous times over many years that he would molest me, each time the sexual acts becoming more involved. I was 18 to 24 months old the first time that this happened. He would later share me with his brother Brad. They both would go on to do the same thing to 2 of my cousins. The one stinging memory throughout my childhood was any time I had to poop, I dreaded it with all my being. Because of repeated sodomy, it was going to hurt. So to stop the hurt, I would always find a place to hide and sit on the heel of my foot to stop and prevent the bowel movement from happening. Unfortunately, as a child, we don't realize this in fact makes things worse, constipating and hardening the stool till it was excruciatingly painful when it finally did happen. Most baths for me as a child, blood would float out of me, off of me, into the water. This would go on for almost a decade. Once the abuse of these first 2 men ended, the next man to hurt me was far closer to me. We would come to learn he not only molested me, but both his daughters and almost any child he could make contact with over several decades. You'd never expect this kind of thing to happen in a prominent family like ours, right? One where the oldest of 3 sons is a sexual deviant, destroying so many lives along the way, stealing the essence of youth and having an army of enablers there to protect him from his own parents, siblings, even the children he scarred. My uncle, George Evans Fitch Jr., was a monster till the day he died. He escaped prosecution because of the statute of limitations when it came to me. His youngest daughter was too scared and manipulated by her older sister that she admired into protecting this man that freely molested many boys and girls and was part of a pedophile network of intimate, detailed acts and letters long before we had internet. This man, along with Chris, became the catalyst for me leaving home at the age of 15. My grandparents were always worried about their image and what people would think. I was given an ultimatum. I could continue this quest to prosecute these men, airing this dirty laundry for all to see, or I could let it go and continue my life of privilege under the controlling, conditional love of Nana and Bumpa, as I called them. I challenged the ultimatum and left home with a one-way ticket to Maine and $3,000. I would never speak to my grandfather again. I hated him for the ultimate betrayal beyond not protecting me as a child, but choosing monsters over me and throwing me away like garbage. He died 30 days later, and the last words I spoke were hate to a man that I was the apple of his eye. Everything changed that year. My childhood was gone. All of this was set in motion the day that a childhood friend transferred to evangelical Christian school. In trying to remember him, I remembered the pain of my childhood by these men. I tried to kill myself during study hall at school in 7th grade. If it wasn't for Sally, Teresa, and Nikki tattletaling on me, who knows if I would have had success. This was the first of 17 attempts from 1987 to 1990. This was the beginning of me becoming an adult way before my time and all the craziness that is my life. I am textbook borderline personality disorder. Fasten your seatbelt for a life that mimics a nighttime soap opera of the 80s. Learn all the things I had to go through to be me. You think you know. You don't know anything yet.